What if the chaos of modern life wasn't something to escape but an arena to train in? Think about it. Endless distractions, constant pressure, the weight of expectations, the fear of failure. These aren't just obstacles, they're the raw materials for building something unshakable. 2,000 years ago, Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, faced his own storms, wars, betrayals, the burden of power, and yet he left us a blueprint for resilience in his personal writings, Meditations. His secret, treating every challenge as a workout for the mind. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. 28 Stoic workouts designed to forge mental fortitude and sharpen strategic thinking, turning life's turbulence into your training ground. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending hardship doesn't exist. It's about rewiring your response to it. Picture a blacksmith hammering molten steel. Each strike isn't destruction, it's transformation. The Stoics saw adversity the same way. When Marcus wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way," he wasn't just offering comfort. He was handing you a tool. These 28 exercises are that tool in motion, a daily regimen to train your mind like a muscle, so fear doesn't paralyze you, uncertainty doesn't derail you, and setbacks don't define you. This isn't abstract philosophy, it's a playbook. Imagine waking up each morning with the clarity of a general mapping a campaign, the calm of a monk in meditation, and the adaptability of a sailor adjusting to shifting winds. That's the promise of these workouts, from reframing obstacles as opportunities to practicing voluntary discomfort, from mastering the pause between stimulus and response to preempting worst-case scenarios with logic. Each exercise is a step toward mastering the art of equanimity. By the end of this journey, you won't just understand Stoicism, you'll wear it like armor. So let's begin where all great transformations do, with the decision to step into the arena. Seneca once wrote, "Begin at once to live and count each separate day as a separate life." That's the power of the morning reflection, a Stoic workout that turns ordinary routines into moments of mastery. Before the world demands your attention, before distractions pile up, you have a choice: to react to whatever comes or to prepare with intention. The Stoics called this Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of challenges. It's not about pessimism, it's about clarity. Picture a surgeon reviewing a procedure before stepping into the operating room, or a chess player visualizing moves before the first piece is touched. That's the mindset you cultivate here. Start with 5 quiet minutes. Ask yourself, what could go wrong today? Not to dwell on fear, but to disarm it. Maybe a meeting will turn contentious, traffic will test your patience, or a project will hit a snag. By naming these possibilities, you strip them of their power to surprise you. Then ask, how will I respond if they happen? This is where Stoicism shines. You're not avoiding reality. You're rehearsing your resilience. Write it down. The simple act of journaling anchors your thoughts, turning vague worries into actionable strategies. Today, if frustration rises, I'll pause and breathe. If plans unravel, I'll adapt, not erupt. These are your mental guardrails, but don't stop at obstacles. Reflect on opportunities too. What virtues do I want to embody today? Courage in a difficult conversation, patience with a colleague, gratitude for small wins. This isn't wishful thinking, it's deliberate practice. The Stoics believed character isn't built in grand gestures but in daily repetitions. Like a sculptor shaping marble, you chip away at your better self one morning at a time. Try this prompt. If today were my last, how would I want to be remembered? It's not morbid, it's motivating. Death was a frequent teacher in Stoic philosophy, not to frighten but to focus. When you confront life's brevity, trivial distractions fade, and what truly matters sharpens into view. Maybe you'd choose kindness over being right, presence over productivity, or courage over comfort. That's the gift of the morning reflection. It doesn't just prepare you for the day, it reminds you why the day matters. Your mornings don't need elaborate rituals, just a pen, a page, and the willingness to look inward before facing the world. Seneca said it best, putting things off is the biggest waste of life. So tomorrow, before you reach for your phone or rush into the chaos, claim those quiet minutes. The storm will come either way. This is how you learn to dance in the rain. Negative visualization sounds counterintuitive. Why would anyone willingly imagine disaster? But Epictetus, the former slave-turned-Stoic teacher, knew something profound about human psychology. What we fear most loses its grip when we stare it down in advance. He called this Premeditation Malorum, the deliberate practice of anticipating setbacks before they happen. Here's the twist: it's not about dwelling on doom. It's about inoculating yourself against panic by rehearsing resilience. Take something as universal as job insecurity. The modern workplace is unpredictable: restructuring, automation, shifting industries. Most people bury that anxiety until a layoff notice lands, and suddenly fear takes the wheel. Now imagine applying negative visualization. What if you lost your job tomorrow? Not as a paralyzing thought, but as a question with a plan. How would I cut expenses? What skills could I sharpen? Who's in my network? By confronting the scenario calmly, you transform it from a specter into a solvable equation. The Stoics weren't masochists, they were strategists. When Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to do," he was teaching you to draft your response before life forces your hand. This exercise works because it exploits a fundamental truth: uncertainty fuels fear more than reality does. A study on anxiety patients found that those who visualized their worst fears, actually writing out the details, reported significantly less distress when those scenarios later occurred. Their brains had already mapped the terrain. That's Stoicism in action. The soldier who trains for ambushes sleeps soundly before battle. The entrepreneur who stress tests their business model doesn't crumble at the first setback. Try it today. Pick one current worry: a strained relationship, a financial hurdle, a health concern. Now walk through it step by step. What's the absolute worst that could happen? Write it down without flinching, then ask, how would I adapt? List 3 concrete actions you'd take. Finally, and this is key, remind yourself, this hasn't happened. But if it does, I'm not powerless. That's the alchemy of negative visualization. You don't just prepare for storms, you learn to sail in them. History's greatest strategists used this tool. Roman generals would hold defeat rehearsals before battles, planning retreat routes and countermoves. The Stoics took it further, applying it to everyday life. Seneca would pause during moments of joy holding his child, enjoying a feast, to whisper, "This too shall pass," not to spoil the moment but to savor it fully, knowing nothing is permanent. That's the deeper lesson here. Resilience isn't just about surviving hardship. It's about appreciating the present without clinging to it. Your turn. Set a timer for 10 minutes, no distractions. Write the worst-case scenario for your chosen worry, then your response plan. Notice how the weight shifts. The monster under the bed becomes just furniture when you turn on the light. As Epictetus put it, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Negative visualization isn't pessimism, it's the ultimate act of optimism. You're declaring, no matter what comes, I won't be undone. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. That single sentence holds the key to one of Stoicism's most transformative tools, the the Dichotomy of Control. Imagine carrying a backpack filled with rocks, each labeled with things outside your power. The weather, traffic, other people's opinions. Every step feels heavier, every mile more exhausting. Now picture emptying that pack, leaving only what's truly yours to carry. Your choices, your efforts, your reactions. That's the freedom the Stoics offered. A life where energy isn't wasted fighting storms but spent adjusting sails. The Stoics divided the world into two categories: what's within our control and what isn't. Internal events, your thoughts, judgments, and actions belong to you. External events, other people's decisions, delays, even your own body's aging do not. This isn't just philosophy, it's a survival tactic. Think about workplace stress. You can't control a last-minute deadline from your boss, but you can control how you plan your next hour. You can't force a colleague to be respectful, but you can choose not to internalize their rudeness. The moment you stop conflating the two, pressure loses its grip. Here's the challenge: we're wired to fixate on externals. A cancelled flight triggers fury. A critical comment ruins a day. But Epictetus, who was born into slavery, posed a radical question. Why be enslaved by things you don't own? He wasn't dismissing pain, he was redirecting power. When his master broke his leg, he reportedly said, "Now I am free," not because suffering was good, but because he recognized no one could chain his mind. Practical application: grab paper and draw a line down the center. On one side, list what you can't control: market crashes, a friend's betrayal, the past. On the other, what you can: your preparation, your boundaries, your next move. The act of writing does something profound. It shifts chaos from emotion to evidence. A client rejects your proposal, that's their call, but refining your pitch, that's yours. Rain ruins your picnic, nature's domain, laughing and moving the party indoors. Your domain. This workout isn't about apathy, it's about agency. Ancient Stoics compared life to a game of dice. You don't control how the dice land, but you control how you play the hand. Marcus, ruling an empire amid wars and plagues, wrote, "The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing, not because life is brutal, but because victory comes from mastering leverage." When you stop shouldering the weight of the uncontrollable, you free up strength for what matters. Try this today. Each time frustration rises, pause and ask, "Is this within my control?" If not, note it and release it like a balloon. If it is, act, don't agonize. The Stoics didn't promise a life without storms. They promised you could learn to stand steady within them. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic teacher who trained Epictetus, had a radical idea: seek out discomfort before it seeks you out. In a world obsessed with convenience, where apps deliver meals in minutes and thermostats adjust to our every shiver, this sounds like madness. But here's the paradox: those who willingly embrace small hardships rarely crumble when life forces big ones upon them. Voluntary discomfort isn't about punishing yourself, it's about vaccination. Just as a tiny dose of a virus trains the immune system, a cold shower or a skipped meal trains the mind to withstand life's inevitable shocks. Think of comfort as a cage with velvet bars. The modern world has engineered discomfort out of existence: temperature-controlled homes, endless entertainment, food available with a tap. Yet studies show that as physical comfort rises, resilience plummets. Soldiers in survival training report feeling more alive after nights in the cold. Entrepreneurs who have faced rejection describe sharper focus. The Stoics knew this 2 millennia ago. Comfort addiction isn't just softness, it's vulnerability. Musonius Rufus put it bluntly: how can a person become courageous if they only seek what's pleasant? This workout is simple in theory, brutal in practice. Start small, take the stairs instead of the elevator, leave your phone behind on a walk. Swap one indulgent meal for something plain. These aren't tests of endurance, they're rehearsals for life's real battles. When you choose discomfort, you rewrite your relationship with it. The hunger pang during a fast becomes a reminder, I can endure. The ache of a morning run whispers, this is how strength feels. History's most resilient figures used this tool. Teddy Roosevelt, sickly as a child, forced himself into brutal physical training, boxing, hiking, cattle ranching to forge what he called the strenuous life. Buddhist monks meditate in freezing caves not to suffer, but to master the art of non-reaction. The pattern is universal. Those who practice hardship stop fearing it. Here's your challenge. Pick one voluntary discomfort this week, something that stretches but doesn't break you. Try a cold shower for 30 seconds, fast for 12 hours. Sleep on the floor. Notice what happens when the initial panic fades. That space between I can't and I did is where mental fortitude is born. As Musonius Rufus taught, how much better to suffer hardship voluntarily for self-improvement than to suffer it unwillingly for no purpose. The goal isn't to live painfully, but to ensure pain never dictates how you live. Marcus Aurelius had a habit of mentally ascending above his problems, not to escape them, but to see them clearly. He called it taking the view from above. Picture this, you're standing on a hill watching two ants argue over a crumb. From that height, their conflict seems absurdly small. Now imagine rising higher, seeing your city, then your country, then the planet itself, a pale blue dot in the vastness of space. Suddenly, that snarky comment on social media or the colleague who stole credit for your idea loses its grip. This isn't about dismissing your feelings, it's about reclaiming perspective. The Stoics knew something neuroscience now confirms. Zooming out physically alters how the brain processes stress. Social media turns life into a highlight reel of others' wins, fueling envy and insecurity. But from the cosmic perspective, those curated lives shrink to what they really are, fleeting moments in one of billions of human stories. That friend vacationing in Bali, a speck on a coastline, the influencer with perfect abs, a temporary arrangement of atoms. This isn't nihilism, it's liberation. When Marcus wrote, "Think of the substance of the whole. What a drop of water is to the river, so is this life to eternity," he wasn't belittling existence. He was offering a way to dissolve pettiness without losing meaning. Try this tonight. Step outside and look at the stars. Then ask, will this problem matter in a year? In a decade, on my deathbed, most of what gnaws at us wouldn't register. The argument over who forgot to take out the trash, the anxiety about likes on a post, these are storms in a teacup. The Stoics didn't ignore daily struggles, they just refused to be dwarfed by them. Like a camera lens pulling back, the view from above reveals context. That rude driver didn't cut you off. They're a stressed stranger in a chain reaction of rush hour tension, the project that feels like life or death. One page in the Encyclopedia of Human Endeavor. History's great minds used this tool. Astronomer Carl Sagan spoke of Earth as a mote of dust suspended in a sunbeam, a reminder of our shared fragility. When astronauts see the planet from space, many report the overview effect, a profound shift in priorities. Borders vanish, grudges seem pointless. The Stoics achieved this without leaving the ground, training their minds to rise above tribal squabbles and personal slights. Here's how to practice it. Close your eyes and visualize your current worry. Now imagine floating above your home, your neighborhood, your continent. Keep going until you see the curve of the earth. Hold that image. Notice how your heartbeat slows. That deadline, still real, but no longer all-consuming. That betrayal, painful but not world-ending. The cosmic perspective doesn't erase problems. It gives you the clarity to solve them without drowning in drama. As Marcus scribbled in his midnight journal, think of the universe as one living being and how small a part of it you are. Small, yes, but with the power to choose what deserves your limited time under the stars. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Imagine holding an hourglass with sand slipping through, each grain a day you'll never get back." The Stoics didn't see death as morbid, they saw it as the ultimate clarifying lens. Memento Mori, remember you must die, wasn't about fear, it was about focus. In a world of infinite scrolling, binge-watching, and trivial arguments, death is the antidote to distraction. It asks one piercing question: is this how you'd spend your last hour? Modern life is a masterclass in avoidance. We fill every silence with podcasts, every wait with phone checks, every moment with noise, as if stillness might remind us of the clock ticking. But the Stoics leaned into that reminder. They kept skulls on their desks, not as macabre decor, but as compasses. When Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. He was hacking the human brain's tendency to procrastinate meaning. Death strips away pretense, that promotion you're obsessing over. Irrelevant if you're gone tomorrow, the grudge you're nursing, a waste of precious breath. Here's the irony: confronting mortality doesn't shrink life, it expands it. Studies show that people who practice Memento Mori, whether through journaling or meditation, report deeper relationships, bolder choices, and less tolerance for pettiness. Why? Because death is the great equalizer. The billionaire and the barrister both get one lifetime. The difference is how they spend their sand. Your turn. Grab paper and write a death meditation, not a eulogy but a gut check. Start with, if I died today, what would I regret not doing? Be ruthless. Maybe it's that book you've delayed writing, the apology you've withheld, or the adventure you've postponed for someday. Now flip it. What would I be proud I did? Those moments of courage, kindness, creation, the stuff of legacy. Finally, ask, what am I currently doing that won't matter when I'm gone? That's your clutter, the meetings that could have been emails, the gossip that felt urgent, the busy work masquerading as progress. Seneca lamented how we live as if we were destined to live forever. The fix isn't despair, it's defiance. Every morning, glance at your mortality like a coach's stopwatch. Let it snap you awake, not to gloom but to aliveness. The Roman general Scipio kept a skeleton at his feasts, whispering, "Enjoy, for you will be this." Morbid, maybe, but also liberating. When you know the banquet won't last forever, you savor every bite. Friedrich Nietzsche, the philosopher who famously declared, "God is dead," borrowed a page from Stoicism when he coined the phrase amor fati, love of fate. While the Stoics practiced acceptance, Nietzsche went further. Not just endure what happens, but embrace it as if you'd chosen it yourself. Imagine life as a sculptor handing you a block of marble with cracks and flaws. The amateur complains about the imperfections. The master sees them as part of the design, carving to highlight the beauty in what others would discard. That's amor fati in action, transforming setbacks into signatures of your story. Thomas Edison's laboratory burning to the ground in 1914 wasn't just a setback, it was a catastrophe. Flames consumed years of research, prototypes, and irreplaceable notes. Reporters rushed to the scene, expecting despair. Instead, they found the 67-year-old inventor watching calmly, telling his son, "Go get your mother and all her friends. They'll never see a fire like this again." By dawn, he was already sketching plans to rebuild. Later, he reflected, "Thank goodness all our mistakes were burned up. Now we can start fresh." That's not resilience, that's reverence for fate. Edison didn't just accept the fire, he exploited it. The Stoics would have nodded in approval. Here's why this mindset works. Resistance magnifies pain. When you rage against traffic, the delay feels longer. When you resent a failed project, the shame lingers. But Amor Fati flips the script. The traffic jam becomes podcast time. The failed project reveals a blind spot worth fixing. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The obstacle is the way," while Nietzsche shouted, "Kiss the obstacle." Both understood that fate isn't your enemy, it's your co-author, your turn. Think of a recent setback, a rejection, a mistake, a loss. Now ask, how could this be a gift in disguise? Maybe the job you didn't get would have trapped you in a toxic culture. Maybe the relationship that ended cleared space for self-discovery. The Stoics didn't wait for hindsight. They trained to spot the silver lining in real time. Journal this prompt: 3 ways this bad thing might serve me. Force your brain to brainstorm upside. Like Edison sifting ashes for clues, you'll start seeing sparks where others see ruins. History's luminaries practiced this daily. Beethoven composed his greatest works after going deaf. Van Gogh painted Starry Night from an asylum. Nelson Mandela mined 27 prison years for the wisdom to heal a nation. None chose their hardships, but all chose their relationship to them. As Epictetus, who turned slavery into a classroom, put it, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it happens." Try this reframe today. When something irritates you, a missed train, a rude email, whisper, "This too is for me," not as naive optimism, but as a challenge to mine the moment for growth. Nietzsche called Amor Fati his formula for greatness. The Stoics called it wisdom. You'll call it freedom. Epictetus, the Stoic philosopher who endured slavery and exile, left us a razor-sharp truth. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. That split second, the Stoic pause, is where ordinary people react and masters respond. Picture 2 chess players. One moves pieces impulsively. The other sits back, fingers hovering, calculating 3 moves ahead. Life's battles are won or lost in those same microseconds. The co-worker who snaps under pressure, the parent who yells in frustration, the investor who panics during a market dip, they're all skipping the pause. Here's how to reclaim it. Start with your body's alarm system. When your boss criticizes your work or your partner says something cutting, notice what happens physically. Your jaw clenches, your pulse races, your vision narrows. Biology is priming you to fight or flee. The Stoics didn't fight biology, they hacked it, their secret. A 5-second rule: before speaking or acting, count silently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not much time, but it's enough to short-circuit emotional hijacking. Neuroscience confirms this. The prefrontal cortex, your brain's rational control center, takes about 5 seconds to override the amygdala's panic signals. Ancient wisdom meets modern science. Practice this today with small triggers. Someone cuts you off in traffic, count before honking. A rude email arrives. Walk away for 5 seconds before replying. Those moments create a buffer between the spark and the explosion. Marcus Aurelius modeled this during military campaigns. Amid the chaos of battle, he'd remove his armor to write in his journal, forcing literal and figurative space between external chaos and internal clarity. You don't need a war zone to train this. The checkout line, the group chat, the dinner table, these are your proving grounds. Now level up, pair the pause with a Stoic question. After counting, ask, will this reaction serve me? Not, is this fair? Or, who's to blame? Those trap you in victimhood. Focus on efficacy. Will snapping at your child improve their behavior or just guilt you later? Will venting about your boss solve the problem or burn a bridge? Epictetus, who was beaten by his master, learned early, you control nothing outside your own choices. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master, he warned. The pause is how you dethrone them. History's great negotiators used this tool. Nelson Mandela, imprisoned for 27 years, practiced pauses so deliberate that aides timed his silences sometimes 10 seconds or more before responding to provocations. "When you speak too quickly," he said, "you surrender the advantage." The Stoics would have agreed. Anger, haste, and pride flourish in unchecked moments. But pause, that's where strategy is born. Your challenge today, when tension rises, physically step back, literally. Take one backward step, a kinesthetic cue to your brain that you're changing modes. Then count 5 seconds, enough for the storm to pass, enough to choose your next move, not be chosen by it. As Epictetus put it, no man is free who is not master of himself. The pause isn't just a technique. It's the gateway to sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius never intended meditations for publication. It was his private journal, a nightly ritual where the most powerful man in Rome turned inward, examining his thoughts like a jeweler inspecting gems under lamplight. "Dig within," he wrote. "Within is the wellspring of good. It will ever bubble up if you ever dig." That's the essence of Stoic journaling, not just recording events, but mining them for wisdom. In an age of digital distraction where thoughts scatter like leaves in wind, the act of putting pen to paper becomes an anchor, a way to slow the whirlwind of life and ask, "What did today teach me?" Modern psychology confirms what the Stoics practiced. Studies show journaling reduces anxiety, sharpens decision-making, and even boosts immune function. But Stoic journaling isn't venting or listing accomplishments. It's structured self-examination. Imagine your mind as a cluttered attic. Journaling is the process of sorting, labeling, and discarding. Start with 3 prompts, each a Stoic scalpel for dissecting the day. First, what did I control today, and where did I waste energy on the uncontrollable? Maybe you obsessed over a delayed flight outside your control, but avoided a difficult conversation within it. Writing exposes these mismatches. Second, where did I act against my values? The Stoics called this prosouch vigilant self-awareness. No guilt trips, just cold-eyed honesty. Did you gossip when you vowed to speak kindly? Did you scroll mindlessly when time could have been spent creating? Marcus wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." Journaling turns that ideal into a daily audit. Third, and this is the golden question, what's one thing I can improve tomorrow? Not a vague resolution, but a tactical tweak. When my coworker interrupts, I'll pause before reacting, or I'll spend the first 30 minutes of my morning on deep work, not email. The Stoics believed progress came through micro-adjustments, not grand gestures. Here's your template. Each night, write 1. Controlled vs. uncontrolled, 2. Values audit, 3. Tomorrow's upgrade, keep it short, 3 sentences total can suffice. The magic isn't in volume, it's in consistency. Seneca compared daily reflection to tending a garden. Every day should be gathered as if it were the last. Your journal is the trowel. Try this tonight. Set a 5-minute timer. Write without filtering. No one will read this but you. The goal isn't eloquence, it's excavation. Over time, patterns emerge. You'll spot recurring traps, quiet triumphs, and the gradual alignment between who you are and who you wish to become. As Marcus scribbled in the darkness of his military tent, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Journaling lets you choose the hue. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius didn't just write about obstacles. He slept in war camps while barbarian tribes threatened his empire, lost 9 children to illness, and ruled during a plague that killed millions. Yet his journals reveal no despair, only a relentless refrain. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This isn't poetic optimism. It's tactical alchemy, the art of turning barriers into bridges. Ryan Holiday's The Obstacle is the way resurrects this ancient Stoic principle for the modern world. where career setbacks, health crises, and daily frustrations aren't roadblocks but raw material for reinvention. Consider the job market. You spend months crafting the perfect resume, only for an AI screening tool to reject it instantly. Most people see a broken system. The Stoic sees a curriculum. That algorithm isn't your enemy, it's your teacher, forcing you to network directly with hiring managers or build public proof of your skills through projects. Holiday calls this flipping the obstacle, a mental judo move where resistance becomes leverage. When the writer J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers, she didn't curse the industry. She refined her pitch until one said yes. The manuscript didn't change, her strategy did. History's greatest innovators operated this way. Thomas Edison's lab burned down in 1914, destroying years of work. Thank God, he told reporters, we've just been cleared to build bigger. The Stoics would have recognized that response instantly. Marcus, leading troops on the frozen Danube, wrote, "The blazing fire makes flames and brightness out of everything thrown into it." Not by denying hardship, but by feeding on it. Here's how to practice this today. Pick one current obstacle, a stalled project, a difficult colleague, a financial squeeze. Now ask 1, how is this obstacle improving me? Maybe the difficult boss is teaching you patience or sharpening your communication. 2, what's it forcing me to try that I've avoided? The funding rejection might push you to bootstrap, building skills no investor could give you. 3, if this obstacle were deliberately placed here to train me, what's the lesson? This reframe isn't magic, it's mechanics. Neurons that fire together wire together, and brains trained to spot opportunity in chaos literally rewire to see differently. NASA astronauts prepare for missions by practicing in underwater labs that simulate zero-gravity obstacles. You're doing the same when you treat a layoff as a chance to pivot or a creative block as a signal to explore new inputs. Your challenge tonight, write a thank you letter to your obstacle, not sarcastically, sincerely. Dear rejection letter, you forced me to build a portfolio that actually reflects my skills. Dear rude customer, you taught me to set boundaries with grace. The Stoics didn't just endure storms, they learned to sail in them. As Marcus scribbled by candlelight, the obstacle in the path becomes the path. The barrier isn't in your way, it is the way. Seneca once advised, decide what kind of person you want to be, then do what you have to do. That's the essence of Premeditation of Virtues, a Stoic workout where you rehearse integrity before temptation even knocks. Most people wait until they're in the thick of a moral dilemma to decide how to act. The Stoics flipped the script. They practiced ethical clarity in advance, like a firefighter drilling for emergencies. Imagine standing at a crossroads where honesty could cost you a promotion, or kindness might demand swallowing pride. These aren't hypotheticals, they're daily battlegrounds. And the time to prepare isn't in the heat of the moment, it's now. Take workplace ethics. You might face a situation where staying silent about a colleague's mistake would save face, but speaking up would serve the truth. Or perhaps you'll witness casual discrimination, a joke, a biased remark that demands intervention at personal risk. The Stoic doesn't wing it. They've already walked through these scenarios mentally, etching their principles into reflex. Seneca called this Premeditation of Virtues, the premeditation of virtues. The mind must be trained, he wrote, to meet every challenge as if it had foreseen it. Here's how it works. Close your eyes and visualize a future test. Maybe it's your boss asking you to fudge numbers on a report, or a client hinting at a bribe for preferential treatment. Play the scene in vivid detail, the pressure, the stakes, the voice whispering, just this once. Now script your response, not in vague ideals, I'll be honest, but in concrete action. I'll say these numbers need to reflect reality. Let's discuss alternatives. I'll reply, our policy doesn't allow favors. Here's how we can proceed fairly. This mental rehearsal does something profound. It wires your brain to default to integrity when cortisol floods your system. Neuroscience backs this. Studies on moral decision-making show that when people pre-commit to ethical choices, like signing an honesty pledge before a test, they're far less likely to cheat under pressure. The Stoics were pioneers of behavioral psychology, understanding that virtue isn't just innate, it's engineered through repetition. A soldier doesn't learn courage mid-battle, they drill it daily. Your challenge this week: pick one virtue you want to strengthen: courage, fairness, patience, and stage a mental fire drill. Visualize 3 scenarios where it'll be tested. Write your lines like an actor preparing for a role. Then, like Seneca advising his friend Lucilius, ponder this: if the moment comes, will you have to deliberate? Or will your training answer for you? Character isn't revealed in crisis, it's built in quiet preparation. The Stoics didn't leave ethics to chance. They engineered their moral reflexes, so when temptation roared, their response was already muscle memory. Epictetus, who endured slavery and exile, knew something modern science now confirms: breath is the remote control for your nervous system. It's not what happens to you, but how you take it in. He might have said literally, when stress hits, most people's breathing turns shallow, fueling panic. The Stoics practiced something radically different, using breath as an anchor, turning each inhale into intention and each exhale into release. This isn't just ancient wisdom, it's biohacking. The moment your boss dumps an impossible deadline on you, or your toddler throws a tantrum in the cereal aisle, there's a 4-count sequence that can short-circuit the spiral before it begins. The 4-7-8 technique, used by Navy SEAL before missions and CEOs before high-stakes presentations, is Stoicism in microcosm. Here's how it works: inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Why these numbers? The extended exhale triggers your parasympathetic nervous system like a biological off switch for fight or flight mode. But there's deeper alchemy here. Those 7 seconds of holding, that's the Stoic pause, the space Epictetus called where choice lives. It's the exact duration neuroscientists say it takes for the prefrontal cortex to override amygdala hijacks. Ancient meets empirical. Try it now. Before reading further, place one hand on your stomach. Breathe in through your nose for 4. Feel your diaphragm expand like a bellows. Hold for 7. Notice where tension lives in your shoulders or jaw. Exhale for 8 through pursed lips. Imagine releasing hot steam from a pressure valve. 3 rounds of this and your heart rate variability improves by up to 30%. The Stoics didn't have heart rate monitors, but they knew this truth. Controlling breath is the first step in controlling perception. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You own the breathing that animates you while riding into battle. If it worked for an emperor under siege, it'll work for your Monday morning traffic jam." Your challenge: test drive this technique before your next stress test, a difficult conversation, a crowded subway ride, even scrolling through bad news. Pair it with a Stoic mantra: "This breath is my anchor," or "I own this moment." Like a blacksmith tempering steel, you're training your mind to stay cool under heat. The goal isn't to eliminate stress, that's impossible. It's to greet it with lungs full of air instead of a head full of noise. As Epictetus put it, first say to yourself what you would be, then breathe your way there. Marcus Aurelius wrestled with this daily: how to pour his entire being into ruling Rome while remaining indifferent to whether his efforts succeeded. He scribbled in his journal, "The cucumber is bitter. Then throw it out. There are brambles in the path, then go around." That's all you need to know. At first glance, it sounds callous, but the deeper truth. Detachment isn't about apathy, it's about sovereignty. When you tie your self-worth to outcomes, whether a promotion, a perfect performance, or praise, you hand over your peace to forces beyond your control. The Stoics called this the dichotomy of control in action. You own your effort, never the result. Take the athlete who trains for years only to lose by milliseconds. Or the writer whose novel gets 20 rejections before one yes. Society glorifies the medal, the book deal, but Stoicism asks, what if the value was in the training itself? The runner's discipline, the writer's craft, the dignity of showing up regardless of applause. When Japanese pottery masters intentionally place a flaw in each piece, they're embodying this principle. Perfection isn't the point, devotion is. Here's the paradox: detachment often leads to better outcomes. Studies on process vs. outcome goals show that students who focus on, I'll study 3 hours daily, outperform those fixated on, I must get an A. Why? One anchors you in action, the other drowns you in anxiety. The Stoics didn't aim for indifference, they aimed for freedom. The kind that lets a musician play for love of music, not standing ovations. Your challenge today: pick one goal you're emotionally attached to. A project at work, a fitness target, a relationship milestone. Now ask 1. What's within my control here? Your preparation, your attitude, your consistency. 2. What's not? Others' opinions, luck, external validation. 3. How can I pour myself into the work while releasing my grip on the result? Marcus left us a clue. The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. Not because life is brutal, but because true strength comes from knowing what you can and cannot hold onto. The dancer depends on the music. The wrestler depends only on their own balance. Stephen Covey's circle of influence could have been ripped straight from Epictetus's lectures. Picture 2 concentric circles, one small, one large. The inner ring holds everything you can actually impact: your choices, your effort, your attitude. The outer ring, everything else: world events, other people's opinions, the past. Most people exhaust themselves pushing against the outer ring, like trying to move a mountain with their bare hands. The Stoics, though, had a different strategy. Expand the inner circle by focusing only where your energy changes something. Take modern outrage culture. Scrolling through news feeds, it's easy to feel powerless: political scandals, climate crises, societal injustices. But here's the Stoic question: does my anxiety alter any of this? If not, it's just mental theater. That doesn't mean apathy. It means directing your finite energy where it bends reality. Marcus Aurelius didn't waste time lamenting barbarian invasions. He trained his troops and fortified borders. Seneca didn't rage against Nero's corruption. He wrote letters on virtue and funded underground schools. Their circles of influence were small but mighty. Your turn: grab paper and draw those 2 circles. In the outer ring, list concerns that drain you but you can't control. A relative's addiction, stock market swings, a neighbor's loud music. Now the inner ring: what you can control, your response to the relative kindness without enabling, your investment strategy, education over panic. Noise-canceling headphones. This isn't surrender, it's strategic focus. The magic happens when you shift resources from the outer ring inward. Every minute spent worrying about politics you can't change is a minute stolen from mentoring a local kid. Every dollar spent on retail therapy to numb existential dread could fund a skill that reduces that dread. Epictetus, born a slave, put it bluntly: we control our reasoned choice and all acts that depend on that moral choice. We don't control the body, property, reputation, or political office. Test this today. Catch yourself spiraling about an outer ring issue, say, a celebrity scandal or a friend's bad relationship choices. Pause, ask, is there one action I could take here that would actually help? If yes, do it. If no, drop it like a hot stone. The Stoics didn't preach passivity, they practiced precision. As Marcus wrote while quelling rebellions, the nearer a man comes to a calm mind, the closer he is to strength. Your circle of influence is your empire. Guard its borders fiercely. Seneca ended his days with a ritual as deliberate as his mornings. When the light has been removed and my wife has fallen silent, he wrote, I examine my entire day and measure my deeds and words. This wasn't self-criticism, it was calibration. The Stoics believed that nights weren't just for resting the body, but for refining the soul. Think of it as mental hygiene. Just as you brush your teeth to prevent decay, you review your day to prevent complacency. The evening review isn't about guilt or pride, it's about progress. 3 questions strip away the noise and reveal patterns invisible in the rush of daylight. Start with what did I do well, not to inflate your ego, but to identify strengths worth reinforcing. Maybe you stayed patient during a toddler's meltdown, or finally set a boundary with a draining coworker. The Stoics called this procope the gradual improvement that comes from recognizing small wins. Neuroscience backs this. Journaling positive actions boosts serotonin and primes the brain for repetition. But here's the key, be specific. I listened without interrupting lands harder than I was nice. Next, what could I improve, not what did I mess up? That invites shame. Frame it as a systems check. Did you snap at your partner because you skipped lunch? That's not a character flaw. It's a cue to pack almonds in your bag. Did you procrastinate on a project because the first step felt vague? Break it into micro tasks tomorrow. Epictetus taught that mistakes are data. No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me you desire a fig, I answer that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit. The final question cuts deepest. Did I live virtuously today? Not was I productive, or did people like me, but was I courageous, just temperate? Ancient Stoics kept a list of virtues on their bedside tables, checking them like a pilot's pre-flight checklist. Imagine reviewing your day through that lens. When my friend gossiped, did I redirect or participate? When anxiety hit, did I numb it with scrolling or face it with breathwork? This isn't about grading yourself, it's about aligning actions with values. Try this for 7 nights. Keep it short, 5 minutes max. Use bullet points, not essays. The magic is in consistency, not eloquence. Over time, you'll spot leaks in your integrity, like a gardener noticing which plants wilt without daily water. Seneca promised lightness of soul to those who practice this ritual, not because it erases flaws, but because it turns them into compost for growth. Tonight, before sleep claims you, steal one quiet moment to ask, if today were a chapter in my biography, would I be proud of how the hero acted? The answer writes tomorrow's draft. Epictetus, the former slave who became one of history's greatest Stoic teachers, left us a radical idea. The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. But what if those people aren't physically present or even alive? The Stoics had a solution: mentors across time. Imagine having Marcus Aurelius on speed dial when facing a moral dilemma, or Seneca in your ear during a crisis of confidence. This isn't fantasy, it's a practice called prosoph, the deliberate study of exemplary lives to shape your own. Consider how Marcus Aurelius leaned on his mentors. In Meditations, he named Chex Rusticus, who taught him to avoid pompous writing, Apollonius, who showed him how to endure pain without complaint, and his adoptive father Antoninus, whose integrity became his compass. Take a good hard look at people's ruling principle. Marcus wrote, especially of the wise, what they run away from and what they seek. He wasn't just admiring them, he was reverse engineering their wisdom. Here's how to adopt your own Stoic mentor. First, choose a guide. Pick a historical figure whose struggles mirror yours, maybe Epictetus for overcoming adversity, Seneca for navigating office politics, or Cato for unshakable principle. Read their actual words, not just summaries. When entrepreneur Tim Ferriss faced career turmoil, he carried Marcus Aurelius journals for months, treating them like a CEO's tactical handbook. Next, create dialogue. Journal as if they're advising you. Stuck in a negotiation, write, Seneca, how would I handle this without compromising my values? Then answer in their voice using their actual quotes. Psychologists call this cognitive scaffolding, borrowing someone else's neural framework until your own strengthens. Finally, pressure test their wisdom. Marcus revered Stoic hero Thracia, but when he wrote, "What would Thracia do?" he didn't blindly mimic her, he adapted. Your mentor isn't a script, they're a sparring partner. Tonight, try this before bed. Read one letter from Seneca or a page from Epictetus' discourses. Then write one sentence applying it to tomorrow's challenges. As Epictetus reminded his students, the philosophers didn't write for applause, but to stir you to action. Your mentors are waiting. The only question is, will you consult them? Marcus Aurelius scribbled a truth in his journal that cuts through 2,000 years of noise. Everything, a horse, a vine, is created for some purpose. For what, then, are you? To say, this is pleasant or this is unpleasant is not your purpose. The Stoics called this the Indifference Exercise, not because life's events don't matter, but because their power over you is negotiable. Picture a scale. On one side, your core values integrity, effort, purpose. On the other, everything else: money, praise, setbacks. The first side weighs anchor, the second is just weather. This workout trains you to sort life's events into two buckets. Preferred indifference, things that make life smoother but don't define your worth, and dispreferred indifference, annoyances that can't erode your character unless you let them. Take reputation. Imagine two scenarios. In one, colleagues praise you for a project you know was rushed. In the other, they criticize work you poured your soul into. The Stoic doesn't ignore the sting or the glow. They label both as indifference. The praise feels nice, preferred. The criticism smarts, dispreferred. But neither alters your intrinsic worth. Marcus, ruling Rome amid whispers of conspiracy, wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Reputation, like currency, is a tool useful when it helps you serve others, irrelevant when it becomes the scoreboard of your self-esteem. Money is the ultimate litmus test for this exercise. A paycheck lets you provide for loved ones or donate to causes preferred, but losing money in a market crash, dispreferred, yet not catastrophic unless you've tied your identity to net worth. The ancient merchant who shipwrecked yet swam ashore carrying only his Stoic journals understood. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants, as Epictetus put it. Modern research echoes this. Once basic needs are met, income spikes don't correlate with happiness, but financial anxiety, the fear of losing status, does. Your turn. Pick one recent event: a promotion, a breakup, a missed flight. Now categorize it. 1. Is this event tied to my control or effort? If no, it's likely an indifferent. 2. Does it fundamentally alter my ability to live virtuously? If no, label it preferred or dispreferred. 3. How would I treat this event if I admired someone else experiencing it? Often, we grant others perspective we deny ourselves. The magic lies in the labeling itself. By naming a layoff, dispreferred but not destructive, or a bonus, preferred but not defining, you reclaim agency. Like a scientist classifying specimens, you reduce chaos to order. The Stoics didn't preach detachment from life, they practiced selective engagement, investing deeply only where their energy could grow goodness. As Marcus reminded himself while quelling rebellions, the cucumber is bitter, throw it away. There are brambles in the path, go around. You don't need to ask, why do these things exist? Some things simply are. Your power lies in how you sort them. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic teacher who lived by his principles even when exiled to a barren island, posed a challenge that still echoes. What good is philosophy if it doesn't teach us how to live? Not just live comfortably, but live aligned, where every choice, from career moves to daily conversations, reflects an inner compass. This is the essence of virtue alignment, not abstract ideals, but a working hierarchy that guides you when stakes are high and clarity is low. Imagine your virtues as a team of advisors who speaks first when you face a moral crossroads. Courage, justice, temperance, the order changes everything. Start by listing the 4 cardinal Stoic virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Then add any others that resonate: loyalty, curiosity, humility. Now rank them, not how you wish they were ordered, but how they actually play out in your life. For a soldier, courage might sit atop the list. For a judge, justice. For a parent, patience. There's no universal hierarchy, that's the point. When a corporate whistleblower risks their career to expose corruption, courage is leading. When a mediator stays neutral in a heated dispute, wisdom takes precedence. Apply this to a real decision. Say you're offered a high-paying job that conflicts with your ethics. Your virtue hierarchy becomes a litmus test. If justice ranks above ambition, the answer is clear. Or consider relationships. If honesty is your North Star, but avoiding conflict ranks higher in practice, dissonance creeps in. Musonius Rufus warned, "We suffer not from the events themselves, but from our judgments about them." Virtue alignment fixes misjudgments before they happen. Here's your challenge. Tonight, write 2 scenarios, one professional, one personal. For each, ask 1, which virtues are in tension here? Profit vs. integrity, honesty vs. harmony. 2, what would my highest ranked virtue dictate? 3, what's one action that honors that priority? The goal isn't perfection, it's awareness. Like a ship's captain constantly checking their compass, you're learning to navigate by inner coordinates rather than external currents. As Musonius Rufus put it, virtue isn't theoretical. It's the muscle memory of the soul. Your hierarchy is the training manual. Now, what's your top virtue today? And does your life reflect it? Heraclitus, the ancient philosopher who inspired Stoicism, whispered a truth that still unsettles us. No man ever steps in the same river twice. The water has moved on, the banks have eroded, even the man is different. The Stoics took this further. Everything is that river. Your career, your relationships, your very identity are in perpetual flux, yet we white-knuckle the illusion of permanence like a sailor clinging to sinking driftwood. Tech workers know this whiplash best. That coding language you mastered last year, obsolete. The social media platform you built a following on, algorithms shifted into irrelevance. The startup that promised stability, acquired and dismantled by lunch. Resistance to this truth isn't just futile, it's the root of half our suffering. Consider how we react when change forces our hand: a layoff, a breakup, an injury. First comes denial, this isn't happening, then bargaining. If I just work harder, it'll go back to normal, and only eventually grudging acceptance. The Stoics proposed a radical shortcut: preemptive surrender, not defeatism. BUT Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter. The practice of internalizing impermanence before crisis strikes. When Marcus Aurelius wrote, "All things fade into the storied past," While ruling an empire, he wasn't being poetic. He was inoculating himself against the shock of loss. Here's the exercise. Pick one thing you're emotionally invested in staying the same. Your job title, your morning routine, your childhood home. Now visualize it altered beyond recognition. If you're a designer, imagine your entire toolset being replaced overnight. If you're attached to your independence, picture needing caregivers. Sit with the discomfort until you uncover the core fear. If this changes, will I still matter? That's the knot to untie. Tech giants provide the ultimate case study. Blockbuster laughed at Netflix's DVD by mail model. Yahoo dismissed Google's just a search engine approach. Their fatal error wasn't complacency, it was assuming their identity was permanent. Contrast this with Adobe, which shifted from selling boxed software to cloud subscriptions despite initial outrage. They grasped what the Stoics taught. Security lies in adaptability, not stasis. Your turn. Tonight, journal this prompt. What change am I resisting, and what's the cost of that resistance? Maybe it's clinging to outdated skills because they once brought success, or avoiding difficult conversations to preserve a fragile peace. The goal isn't to like impermanence, but to loosen its chokehold. As Epictetus warned, to resist change is to resist the very nature of the universe. The river keeps flowing. You can either tense up and drown or relax and let it carry you to shores unseen. Epictetus, who stood with the posture of a man who'd endured slavery and emerged unbroken, once said, "Don't let your reflection on the whole sweep of life crush you. Don't fill your mind with all the bad things that might still happen." But here's what he didn't say aloud. His body already knew it. The Stoics understood something modern science now confirms. Your physical stance doesn't just reflect your mental state, it creates it. Walk into a high-stakes meeting with slumped shoulders and averted eyes, and you've already surrendered half your authority before speaking a word. This is the Stoic body language workout, an invisible armor of poise that turns pressure into presence. Start with the feet. Ancient statues of Stoic philosophers don't depict them fidgeting or shifting weight nervously. They're planted, grounded, as if rooted to the earth. Neuroscience calls this proprioceptive feedback, the way your posture sends signals back to your brain. Stand with feet shoulder width apart, weight evenly distributed, and your mind receives a message: I am stable. I belong here. Now the shoulders. Epictetus, who taught in crowded Athenian courtyards, didn't hunch under the weight of his words. He carried them with relaxed but deliberate openness. Roll your shoulders back just slightly, not into a stiff military pose, but as if you're balancing a fragile vase on your collarbone. This alone expands your lung capacity, lowering cortisol levels and sharpening focus. Then there's the face, the Stoics' most guarded fortress. Roman busts of Marcus Aurelius show the same expression whether he's leading troops or mourning a child: calm, neutral, unreadable. Modern research on facial feedback reveals why. Even faking a slight smile, not a grin, just relaxed lips, tricks your brain into releasing serotonin. In conflict or negotiation, this isn't about masking emotion, it's about regulating it. Epictetus advised, if you are pained by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. Your face is that judgment's first draft. Now apply this to a job interview. Most candidates rehearse answers but forget their body is shouting subtext. Enter the room with deliberate steps, not slow but purposeful, as if you've already been hired. Sit at a slight angle to the interviewer, not squared off like a gladiator, but not retreating either. When answering, pause briefly before speaking. A Stoic silence carries more weight than rushed words. Your hands, rest them lightly on the table or your lap. No clenched fists, no fluttering gestures. One CEO I coached described the ideal posture as a mountain with a heartbeat, unshakable but alive. The real test comes in conflict. When someone raises their voice, the instinct is to mirror their tension, leaning forward, jaw tightening. The Stoic does the opposite. They might even lean back slightly, creating physical space that becomes psychological space. A study on police negotiators found those who maintained open postures during standoffs, palms visible, shoulders relaxed, de-escalated situations 20% faster. Epictetus, who faced angry students and hostile critics daily, would have nodded. He who laughs at himself never runs out of things to laugh at. Power isn't in dominating the room, it's in refusing to let the room dominate you. Your challenge today: pick one high-stakes moment, a work presentation, a difficult conversation, even a crowded subway ride, and practice Stoic posture. Stand like a column, not a question mark. Sit like you're sculpted into the chair. Breathe as if each inhale fills an iron bellows. The goal isn't to impress others. It's to remind yourself through muscle memory that you are, as Marcus wrote, composed of a little flesh, breath, and the ruling part. The flesh and breath will falter. The ruling part, that's yours to command. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." In a world where the average person checks their phone 96 times a day, where notifications fracture focus like shattering glass, that quiet retreat feels more like a myth than a possibility. But the Stoics knew something we've forgotten. Silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the birthplace of clarity. This workout isn't about grand gestures or week-long meditation retreats. It's about reclaiming just 1 hour from the digital storm to rediscover what your mind sounds like when it's not drowning in someone else's agenda. Start with a simple challenge, a 60-minute silent walk. No podcasts, no music, no phone in hand, just you, your breath, and the rhythm of your steps. The goal isn't to empty your mind, that's impossible. It's to observe the chaos without feeding it. Think of it like sitting by a river watching leaves float past. You wouldn't jump in to rearrange them. You'd just notice their shapes, their paths. Your thoughts are those leaves. The moment you try to stop thinking about work or that awkward conversation, you've already lost. The trick: let the thoughts come, but don't hand them a megaphone. Here's what to watch for during your walk. First, the quality of your mental chatter. Are your thoughts frantic rabbits darting between past regrets and future worries? Or sluggish, foggy, like a tired engine struggling to start? Marcus called this the murmuring of the mind, a background hum we rarely notice until we step back. Second, notice what your brain defaults to when left alone. For some, it's problem-solving, rehashing that project at work. For others, it's fantasy, imagining confrontations or victories that'll never happen. The Stoics weren't interested in suppressing these patterns. They wanted you to see them clearly, like a doctor diagnosing a patient before treatment. History's greatest minds relied on this practice. Nietzsche composed his best ideas on long, silent hikes through the Swiss Alps. Einstein famously said his theory of relativity came to him not in a lab, but while daydreaming on a walk. Even Steve Jobs, though no Stoic, used silent walks as negotiation prep, stripping away noise to hear his own instincts. These weren't mystical experiences. They were the natural result of giving the mind space to untangle itself. Your turn. Choose a route you know well, a park loop, a quiet neighborhood somewhere you won't need GPS or small talk. Set a timer if you must, but hide your phone. As you walk, borrow Marcus's question. Is this thought useful? Not good or bad, useful. Like a bouncer at a club, you're not judging the guests, you're just checking if they're on the list. That nagging worry about tomorrow's meeting, acknowledge it, then return to the feeling of your feet on pavement. the mental replay of an argument, label it past and watch it drift. The first 20 minutes will feel like holding a squirming child. Your mind will resist the restraint, but around minute 40, something shifts. The noise doesn't vanish, but its volume drops. You'll catch gaps between thoughts, tiny pockets of silence where clarity seeps in. The Stoics didn't worship silence because it was peaceful. They revered it because it was honest. In that hour without input, you'll meet your raw, unfiltered self, the one not performing for coworkers or curating a persona online. And that self, it's been waiting to tell you something. Maybe it's a solution you've overlooked, a truth you've avoided, or simply the reminder that you're more than the sum of your reactions. As Marcus wrote in the dead of night, you have wandered all over and finally realized you never found what you were after, how to live. Not in textbooks, but in the quiet between sentences. The answer isn't out there, it's in the silence you've been running from. Seneca once wrote a letter to his friend Lucilius that crackles with urgency even 2,000 years later. You cry, "This is unfair," but what if I told you this irritation is the whetstone for your gratitude? The gratitude reversal isn't about slapping a smile on frustration. It's alchemy, taking life's leaden annoyances and transmuting them into golden perspective. Picture this: you're late for a meeting, tapping your foot as traffic crawls. Your pulse spikes, your jaw tightens, classic stress response. Now flip the script. What if this delay was a gift? 10 unexpected minutes to rehearse your presentation. Listen to that podcast you bookmarked, or simply watch sunlight dapple the hood of the car ahead. The Stoics didn't wait for paradise to practice thankfulness. They mined it from the rubble of inconvenience. Take slow Wi-Fi, the modern equivalent of Seneca's stuck chariot. Your video buffers, your upload stalls, and suddenly you're muttering curses at a blinking router. But what's really being stolen? The seconds, or your ability to choose how you spend them. The gratitude reversal forces a trade, irritation for opportunity. That loading screen becomes a chance to stretch your spine, jot down a fleeting idea, or make eye contact with someone across the room. Marcus Aurelius scribbled in his journal, "The thing itself isn't the disturbance, it's your judgment of it. The Wi-Fi didn't create your frustration, your expectation of instant access did." Here's how to train this muscle. First, catch the complaint as it forms. The barista gets your order wrong, your flight's delayed, your neighbor's dog won't stop barking. Notice the heat rising, that's your cue. Next, interrogate the inconvenience. Ask 1. What's actually being lost here? Often, it's less than you think. 2. What unexpected space does this create? A forced pause, a chance to problem solve. 3. How would someone I admire handle this? Picture Nelson Mandela smiling through prison chores. Finally, flip it. The wrong coffee, a chance to try something new. The flight delay, bonus reading time. The yapping dog, a reminder to invest in noise-canceling headphones or patience. Seneca practiced this daily. "I once complained about having no shoes until I met a man with no feet." But this isn't about guilt tripping yourself into gratitude. It's about reclaiming agency over your attention. Your challenge today: pick 3 gripes, mundane, recurring ones work best. The slow elevator, the crowded inbox, the burnt toast. For each, write down the reversal. The elevator's slowness forces me to breathe deeply before rushing into the office. The inbox avalanche means my skills are in demand. The charred bread reminds me I have food at all. The magic isn't in the specifics, it's in the mental pivot. Like a judo master using an opponent's momentum, you're turning life's nudges into steps forward. History's resilience icons mastered this. Viktor Frankl in Auschwitz noticed beauty in a sunset through barbed wire. Beethoven, Going Deaf, composed by feeling vibrations in piano wood. Their power wasn't denial, it was recontextualization. As Seneca put it, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. Your Wi-Fi lag, your traffic jam, your noisy neighbor, they're the polishing cloth. The question is, will you grit your teeth or gleam? Epictetus, who knew the sting of chains before he knew the power of philosophy, dropped a truth bomb that still detonates 20 centuries later. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. That's the heart of fear exposure, not the absence of fear, but the willingness to dance with it. Think of fear like a shadow, run from it, and it looms larger. Turn to face it, and you realize it's just an absence of light. The Stoics didn't preach fearlessness. They practiced fear familiarity, systematically shrinking terror into discomfort, then discomfort into data. Start with your body's reaction. When your boss calls you into an unexpected meeting or you're handed a microphone at a wedding, notice what happens. Your palms sweat, your throat tightens. Your brain screams, abort mission. Biology is doing its job, flooding you with cortisol to survive saber-toothed tigers. But here's the problem. Modern fears are rarely life or death. Public speaking won't kill you. Asking for a raise won't trigger a heart attack. The Stoic hack: retrain your amygdala by proving repeatedly that you won't die from discomfort. Enter the fear ladder. Imagine a staircase where each step represents a slightly scarier version of your fear. At the bottom, easy wins. At the top, the dragon you've been avoiding. Say you dread public speaking. Your ladder might look like this. 1. Recording a video of yourself speaking, no audience. 2. Playing it back, the cringe factor. 3. Showing it to a trusted friend. 4. Speaking to 3 colleagues over lunch. 5. Presenting to your team. 6. Addressing a room of strangers. The magic is in the progression. You're not jumping from mute terror to TD talk. You're microdosing bravery. Ancient gladiators trained this way, first with wooden swords, then blunted metal, then real combat. Each small victory rewires your brain's threat assessment. Now apply this to your current fear. Pick one, not the abstract, I'm scared of failure, but the concrete, I avoid networking events, or I panic when giving feedback. Break it into 6 manageable steps, starting so laughably small that skipping feels sillier than doing. The first rung should feel like, I could do this in my sleep. That's the point. Consistency trumps intensity. Epictetus, who faced down Roman emperors and hostile students, left us a clue. It's not things that upset us, but our judgments about them. That networking event isn't inherently terrifying. Your story about it is. So rewrite the script. Each step up your fear ladder isn't just exposure, it's evidence. Evidence that you can handle awkward silences, that your voice won't crack, that even if it does, the world won't end. Your challenge today: draft your ladder. Then climb one rung, just one before sunset. Not when you feel ready, you never will, but precisely because your palms are damp and your pulse is loud. That's the Stoic moment, when you realize fear isn't a wall, but a door you've been leaning against all along. Turn the handle, step through. Imagine standing at a crossroads where every path looks equally uncertain. A job offer that pays more but clashes with your values, or a relationship teetering between honesty and comfort. Decision fatigue sets in, and the louder the world shouts its opinions, the harder it is to hear your own compass. This is where the Stoic decision matrix cuts through the noise like a surgeon's scalpel, a simple 4-quadrant grid that forces clarity by asking just 2 questions. Is this within my control? And does it align with virtue? The ancient Stoics didn't have flowcharts or pros and cons lists, but they had something better: a ruthless focus on what's governable and good. Let's break it down with a career dilemma. You're offered a leadership role with a 30% raise, but the company's practices skirt ethical lines. Quadrant 1, within control plus virtue aligned. This is the sweet spot, your preparation for the interview, your negotiation tactics, your commitment to integrity. Quadrant 2, outside control plus virtue aligned. The company's culture or market conditions aren't yours to fix, but you can choose whether to lend your skills to them. Quadrant 3, within control plus virtue misaligned. Here's the trap, the temptation to compromise your standards for short-term gain. And Quadrant 4, outside control plus virtue misaligned. The gossip, the competitor's actions, the economy energy spent here is pure drain. Now apply this to relationships. Should you confront a friend who's distancing themselves? Control, you can't force them to open up, but you can choose how to express care. Virtue, is your motive kindness or validation? The matrix exposes hidden agendas. A client once agonized over whether to fire a toxic but high-performing employee. The grid revealed the truth. Their fear of revenue loss, Quadrant 4, was overshadowing the team's well-being, Quadrant 1. Your challenge today: grab paper and draw the matrix, label each quadrant, then pick one current decision, whether to move cities, end a partnership, or even just how to spend your Saturday. Plot every factor onto the grid. Watch what happens. Excuses crumble, justifications glare. What's left is the bone structure of your best self. As Epictetus put it, first say what you would be, then act accordingly. The matrix isn't a magic 8-ball, it's a mirror. And sometimes the clearest answers come when we stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "Who do I want to be?" Marcus Aurelius scribbled a line in his private journals that cuts through 2,000 years of noise. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, not appear as one, not debate about one. Be. This is the heart of the character focus workout, a stoic mirror held up not to judge others, but to reveal where your own reflection falls short. Imagine walking through a gallery where every painting is crooked. You could spend hours straightening frames, or finally notice the tilted floor beneath your feet. The Stoics chose the latter. Social media has turned comparison into a blood sport. Scrolling through highlight reels of vacations, promotions, and perfectly plated avocado toast, it's easy to slip into silent scorekeeping. They're luckier, more successful, happier. But here's what those pixels don't show: the sleepless nights, the hidden struggles, the filters smoothing reality. The Stoic antidote: redirect that scrutiny inward with surgical honesty. When you catch yourself mentally critiquing someone's choices, why would they post that? Who do they think they are? A pause. That's your cue to ask instead, what's one thing I'm avoiding in my own life that their post triggered in me? Envy often points to unfulfilled potential. Judgment frequently masks insecurity. Consider the ancient practice of prosoch, Stoic mindfulness. Every evening, Epictetus had his students examine not others' failures, but their own lapses in integrity. Did I speak harshly when patience was needed? Did I indulge laziness disguised as rest? This isn't self-flagellation, it's calibration. Modern psychology confirms the power of this shift. A Harvard study found that people who focused on personal growth rather than social comparison reported 23% higher life satisfaction. The data aligns with Marcus's observation. You don't have to turn this into something. It doesn't have to upset you. The co-worker's humble brag, the influencer's curated life, they're just background noise unless you hand them the microphone. Your challenge this week is twofold. First, conduct a character audit. Pick one area where you instinctively judge others, maybe their work ethic, parenting style, or lifestyle choices. Now flip the lens. Where am I cutting corners in this same area? If you scoff at people glued to their phones, track your own screen time. If you resent others' discipline, examine your own routines. Second, choose one micro-improvement. Not be perfect, but pause before reacting in meetings, or listen without planning my rebuttal. Write it on your mirror. Set a daily reminder. The goal isn't to eclipse others, but to outgrow your former self. As Marcus reminded himself while ruling an empire, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. Every minute spent judging is a minute stolen from becoming. The world will always give you reasons to look sideways. Character is built by looking inward, then rolling up your sleeves. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher who amassed vast wealth only to give it all away, left us a piercing question. Do you ask what is the proper limit to wealth? It is, first, to have what is necessary, and second, to have what is enough. That razor-thin line between enough and excess is where the minimalism challenge begins. A 24-hour experiment in distinguishing wants from needs, not to punish yourself, but to rediscover the liberating power of enough. Imagine waking up tomorrow and for one full day, consuming only what you truly require. Simple meals, water, basic clothing, no impulsive purchases, no mindless scrolling. No deprivation, just clarity. Modern consumerism runs on a cruel illusion that more choices mean more freedom. Yet studies show the opposite. The average person makes 35,000 decisions daily, with options multiplying like fractals. The cereal aisle isn't nourishment, it's decision fatigue in a cardboard jungle. Social media isn't connection, it's a slot machine for dopamine hits. Seneca saw this coming. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. The minimalism challenge isn't about poverty, it's about auditing your relationship with enough. Start with a want vs need fast. For 24 hours, permit yourself only food, enough to nourish, not indulge. Think oatmeal, not artisanal toast. Media, only what informs or genuinely uplifts, no doom scrolling. Speech, words that serve, not just fill silence. Purchases, absolute necessities, medicine, not merch. The goal isn't to suffer, but to spotlight how much of your daily consumption is habitual, not essential. Like a painter stepping back from a canvas, you're creating space to see the composition clearly. Now, eliminate one non-essential for the day, something seemingly harmless but cumulatively costly. That morning latte, skip it and notice how your body reacts. Is it withdrawal or indifference? The constant email checks, try 3 scheduled batches instead. Even something as small as avoiding the "Buy Now" button on a whim purchase reveals the muscle memory of consumption. History's most contented figures practiced this routinely. Gandhi owned fewer than 10 possessions at any time. Thoreau's cabin at Walden Pond measured 10 by 15 feet, smaller than many modern bathrooms. But this isn't about austerity, it's about intentionality. Seneca, despite his wealth, lived for months each year as if penniless, writing, "Set aside a certain number of days to eat only the cheapest food and wear the coarsest clothes," asking yourself, is this what I used to dread? Your challenge today, pick one category, clothing, digital consumption, food, or spending, and strip it to the bone for 24 hours. Notice what surfaces: anxiety, boredom, relief. That's the data. The Stoics didn't shun wealth, they shunned slavery to it. As Seneca reminded us, money has never yet made anyone rich. True abundance begins when you stop chasing what you don't need and start seeing what you already have. Musonius Rufus, the Stoic teacher who turned exile into a classroom, offered a radical prescription for modern burnout centuries before it existed. From time to time, one must withdraw to heal the mind as one does the body. Not as escapism, but as recalibration, a deliberate pause to remember who you are beneath the layers of obligation. The Stoic sabbatical isn't about luxury retreats or month-long digital detoxes, though those have their place. It's a tactical half-day withdrawal from the noise, designed to create space for what Seneca called the conversation of the soul with itself. Think of it as pressing the reset button on your nervous system before life does it for you. Start by scheduling it like a medical appointment, because in many ways it is. Block 4 hours on your calendar 2 weeks from now. Label it critical maintenance if you must. This isn't idle time, it's infrastructure work. The rules are simple: no work tasks, no social media, no chores masquerading as leisure. Yes, that includes just quickly organizing the garage. Your only agenda is intentional stillness. For the first hour, try walking without purpose. No destination, no step count, no podcast in your ears. Let your mind wander like a child exploring a backyard. Notice how often you instinctively reach for your phone to fill the silence. That reflex is exactly what you're unlearning. Next, borrow Marcus Aurelius' journaling technique. Ask yourself at dawn, what is my purpose today? Except now, in this sacred space, ask, what have I been pretending not to know? The answers often surface when we stop drowning them out. Maybe it's that career path you've outgrown, the relationship you've been patching with band-aids, or simply the exhaustion you've been gaslighting yourself into ignoring. Write without editing, stream of consciousness honesty that would make Musonius nod in approval. If reflection feels too abstract, use the time for strategic reading, not productivity hacks or news digests, but texts that realign your compass. Keep a sabbatical tome reserved solely for these half-days, perhaps Epictetus' Discourses for Resilience, Mary Oliver's Poetry for Wonder, or Rebecca Solnit on Hope as a discipline. The key is depth over consumption. Underline passages, write margin notes, let ideas marinate instead of rushing to the next thing. History's greatest minds built these pauses into their rhythm. Darwin took daily, thinking walks along the sandwalk path near his home. Einstein carried his violin into the woods when stuck on equations. The Stoics didn't wait until collapse to retreat. They scheduled wisdom like farmers rotate crops. Your turn. Open your calendar now, yes, right now, and pencil in your sabbatical before the urgency of everyday life claims those hours. As Musonius taught, we are not given a short life, but we make it short by wasting time on what doesn't nourish the soul. 4 hours might feel impossible until you realize how many you've already lost to autopilot. The gift isn't the time itself, it's remembering you're the steward of your attention, not its hostage. Marcus Aurelius spent his final hours not in panicked legacy building, but in calmly asking his friends, have I played my part well? Not for applause, but for confirmation that he'd stayed true to the Stoic ideal of serving the common good. That's the heart of the legacy meditation, stepping outside the daily grind to ask, what traces will my existence leave in the world when I'm gone? Not the Instagram posts that fade like footprints in sand, but the indelible marks on hearts and minds. Social media tricks us into conflating visibility with value, as if follower counts measure impact. But history remembers no influencers, only those who lifted others. This exercise begins with a brutal honesty most avoid. Picture your own funeral, not the flowers or the music, but the hushed conversations between attendees. What are they really saying? She was always the first to help. His integrity never bent. They made everyone feel seen. Or is there an awkward silence, punctuated by hollow praise over career titles and possessions? The Stoics called this Memento Mori meets Amor Fati, remembering death to love your fate enough to shape it. Your legacy isn't written in a will, it's etched in daily choices. Consider 2 parallel paths. On one, a CEO chases quarterly profits, sacrificing employee well-being for shareholder reports. On the other, a teacher in a cramped classroom spends weekends tutoring struggling students without extra pay. The first may grace magazine covers, but the second alters destinies. Marcus, ruling the Roman Empire at its zenith, wrote, "What we do in life echoes in eternity." He knew power wasn't in monuments, but in moments how you treat the waiter, the stranger, the enemy. Your challenge is to draft a legacy statement, not a resume bullet or LinkedIn headline, but a compass for your actions. Start with these prompts. 1. What pain in the world do I feel called to alleviate? Not save the rainforest. If you're an accountant, think local, personal. 2. What qualities do I admire in those I'll never forget? Their patience, their courage to stand alone. 3. If all social media disappeared tomorrow, how would my community describe me? Then the litmus test: does today's to-do list align with this legacy? If you dream of being remembered as a devoted parent but habitually work through dinner, there's your friction point. If you value compassion but snap at service workers, that's the gap to bridge. Legacy isn't built in grand gestures, but in the 1,000 tiny choices we make while distracted. Social media fame is like building a castle on a foggy shore, visible until the tide shifts. The Stoics built their legacies in bedrock. Seneca through letters that still guide seekers. Epictetus through students who carried his wisdom. Marcus through private journals never meant for publication. Their power came from surrender, not to oblivion, but to something larger. As Marcus wrote on the battlefield, "The fruit of this life is a good character and acts for the common good." Your legacy isn't what you take, it's what you give when no one's watching. Tonight, light a candle, write your statement in one unpolished paragraph. Then ask the hardest question: if I died tomorrow, would this be true? The gap between answer and aspiration is where your real work begins. 28 workouts, each one a chisel shaping the unbreakable marble of your character. What began as principles scribbled by candlelight 2,000 years ago now stand as your tactical playbook for modern resilience. These aren't abstract philosophies gathering dust on a shelf. They're daily drills for the mind, turning life's chaos into a training ground where every obstacle becomes your instructor. From morning reflections that set your compass to evening reviews that sharpen your awareness, from voluntary discomfort that immunizes against fragility to legacy meditations that anchor you to purpose, this is Stoicism in motion. Not as a theory, but as a practice, consistency is the secret ingredient. You don't build a fortress in a day, and mental toughness isn't forged in grand, sporadic gestures. It's the quiet accumulation of showing up, journaling when you're tired, pausing when you're provoked, choosing integrity when compromise whispers. Marcus Aurelius didn't write Meditations in a single inspired weekend. He filled those pages night after night, even on the battlefield. Progress hides in the mundane, the cold shower you didn't skip, the deep breath you took before reacting, the moment you asked, "Is this within my control?" Instead of spiraling into blame, perfection is the enemy here. The Stoics weren't flawless, they were relentless. Epictetus, who famously said, "No great thing is created suddenly," didn't mean mastery takes time. He meant greatness is the byproduct of showing up again and again, regardless of results. A sculptor doesn't judge each strike of the hammer, only the cumulative shape emerging from the stone. Your missteps, data, not failures. That morning you forgot to reflect. A reminder, not a verdict. The goal isn't to execute these workouts flawlessly, it's to let them change you gradually, like water smoothing stone. So where to begin? Don't drown in all 28 at once. Pick one, just one, that resonates most with your current battle. Is fear holding you hostage? Start with the fear ladder. Overwhelmed by chaos, try the view from above. Struggling with distraction, the Stoic sabbatical awaits. Master it for a week, then layer in another. This is how you build the compound interest of resilience. Epictetus left us a final gift. Progress is not judged by how far you've come, but by the weight you no longer carry. The anger you don't indulge, the anxiety you disarm, the pettiness you outgrow, that's the real measure. Now it's your turn. Share in the comments which workout will you start with. What's the first weight you'll set down? The Stoics may have laid the foundation, but the walls you raise are yours alone.